You know that feeling when someone knocks on your door and you are not expecting anyone, and your body does that little tightness, the alert, the caution. That is your amygdala scanning for threat. Unannounced visitors could mean danger. But there is another feeling. The feeling when you know someone is coming, when you have been waiting, when the knock comes and you open the door, and there they are, a friend, a healer, someone who said they would come. And your body does the opposite of tightness. It releases. The shoulders drop. The breath deepens. Something in you that was holding together, alone, relaxes. That release is not just emotional. It is physiological. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of your nervous system that calms you down, activates. Your cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps you on alert, drops. In the safety of your own thresholds, with someone who crossed it to reach you, your body knows you are not alone. You are being held. There is a study from Uganda called SEARCH. It was a door-to-door HIV intervention, and what it found was extraordinary. The teams that went to people's homes, that crossed the thresholds, that delivered testing and treatments at the doorstep, achieved what clinics could not, a 70% reduction in HIV incidence. The intervention worked, but why? Was it just the testing? The medication? Or was it something deeper, something about being visited, about healing that comes to your door rather than requiring you to go out and find it? There is a practice for this. There has always been a practice for this. And that is what we are exploring today. Welcome to Ritual Friday, the show about the practices that make us more human. I am Sarah, and every Friday I bring you one ritual, one practice, one thing that humans have done across cultures and centuries to meet needs that the modern world forgot to address. We are going to look at the science behind why it works, through traditions that have always known it works, and exactly how you can bring it into your own life starting today. This week, we are talking about the ritual of being visited, the practice of healing that comes to your door, and why being visited activates something in the human animal that traveling to an institution simply does not. Let us start with the human animal's relationship to home. For our ancestors, home was not just shelter, it was safety. It was the place where the threat detection system could rest. When you were in your cave, your hut, your camp, the place you knew, the place where the fire was lit, the place where your people gathered, your nervous system was calibrated differently than when you were out in the world. Out in the world, you were scanning. The amygdala, the internal alarm system, was active. You were watching for predators, for rivals, for threats. Your cortisol, the stress hormone, was elevated. Your body was in a state of readiness. At home, that system could power down. The familiar smells, the familiar sounds, the familiar faces, these signals told your nervous system, you are safe, you can rest, you can heal. This is not metaphor, it is physiology. Research on the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, shows that being in a familiar, safe environment lowers heart rate, reduces blood pressure, and shifts the body into a state that supports immune function and tissue repair. Healing happens faster when you are at home. Now, here's the mismatch. Modern healthcare asks you to leave home. To get care, you must travel, often a long distance, to an institution, a clinic, a hospital, a therapy office. You sit in a waiting room with strangers. You are called into a room you have never been in. You are examined by someone you may not know. All of this, from the perspective of your nervous system, is a threat. Not a life-threatening threat, but a threat nonetheless. Your amygdala is active. Your cortisol is elevated. Your body is in a state of readiness, not a state of rest. And then, in that state, you're expected to receive healing. The SEARCH study in Uganda demonstrated this mismatch in dramatic fashion. The researchers compared clinic-based HIV testing and treatment to a door-to-door model. In the door-to-door model, trained community health workers went to people's homes. They knocked. They were invited in. They delivered testing, counseling, and treatment on the threshold or inside the home. The results were stunning. The door-to-door model achieved a 70% reduction in HIV incidence. That is not a small difference. That is the difference between a program that works and a program that does not. The researchers attributed this success to accessibility. People do not have to travel. But I think there is something deeper. The door-to-door model respected the physiology of safety. It delivered care in the place where the nervous system could receive it. The search study is modern, but the practice it rediscovered is ancient. Across cultures and centuries, humans have understood that healing comes to the door. Let me give you 3 examples. First, the Christian tradition of pastoral visitation. For centuries, priests and ministers did not wait for people to come to church. They went to people's homes. They sat at kitchen tables. They listened to confessions in living rooms. They brought communion to the sick in their beds. The practice was called visitation, and it was understood as essential to pastoral care. The shepherd went to the sheep. The sheep did not have to find the shepherd. Second, the Buddhist tradition of pindapata. In Theravada Buddhism, monks walk on alms rounds each morning. They go from house to house, standing silently at each threshold. Lay people come out and offer food. The ritual is often described as the monk receiving food from the layperson. But there is another way to see it. The monk is visiting. The monk is crossing the threshold, not entering, but coming to the door, offering presents, receiving what is given. The householder does not have to go to the monastery to participate in the community. The community comes to them. Third, Aboriginal Australian Sorry Business. When someone dies in many Aboriginal communities, the family does not go out to seek support. The community comes to them. People travel, sometimes long distances, to sit with the grieving family, to be present, to share the weight of loss. The practice is called sorry business, and it is understood as essential. Grief is not carried alone. Grief is met at the door. These traditions are separated by continents, by religions, by thousands of years, but they share a common structure. Healing, whether of body, mind, or spirit, is delivered at the threshold. The caregiver goes to the one who needs care. The care comes to the door. What is striking about this common structure is that it runs directly counter to the modern model. We have built institutions. We have centralized care. We have said, come to us. And we have discovered that many people do not come. Or they come, but their nervous systems are so activated by the journey, the waiting, the unfamiliar environment, that they cannot fully receive what is offered. Through traditions that have persisted for millennia, understood something that modern healthcare is only now rediscovering. The direction of movement matters. When you go to someone, you are saying, you are worth the journey. You are worth the effort. You are worth crossing the thresholds for. And that message, delivered not in words, but in the structure of the practice itself, activates something in the person being visited. Safety, trust, the ability to receive. So, what does the science say about why being visited works? Why does the direction of movement matter? Why does healing come more effectively when it comes to the door? There are 3 mechanisms worth understanding. First, the neuroscience of safety. The parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest system, is activated when the brain receives signals that the environment is safe. Familiarity is one of those signals. Being in your own home, with your own smells, your own sounds, your own furniture, these are powerful safety signals. Your brain does not have to allocate resources to threat detection. It can allocate resources to healing. When you travel to an institution, those safety signals are absent. The environment is unfamiliar. The people are strangers. Your brain, without conscious awareness, is scanning for threats. Your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, is activated. Cortisol is elevated. In that state, the body is not in healing mode. It is in survival mode. Second, the psychology of being chosen. When someone travels to see you, there is an implicit message. You are worth the effort. You are worth the journey. This is not abstract. The brain tracks social signals like this with exquisite sensitivity. The ventral striatum, a region of the brain involved in reward and motivation, activates when we receive signals of being valued by others. Oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and trust, is released. These neurochemical changes create a state of receptivity. You can receive what is offered because you feel safe and valued. Third, the physiology of thresholds. There is research on what psychologists call boundary crossing in care relationships. When a practitioner crosses the thresholds into a patient's home, the power dynamic shifts. In a clinic, the practitioner is on their own territory. The patient is a visitor. In the home, the patient is on their territory. The practitioner is a visitor. This shift changes the neurochemistry of the encounter. The patient's threat response is lower. The patient's sense of agency, the feeling of being in control, is higher. And agency, the research shows, is a powerful predictor of treatment outcomes. The search study did not measure these mechanisms directly, but the 70% reduction in HIV incidence compared to clinic-based care is evidence that something beyond accessibility was at work. People did not just get tested and treated. They got tested and treated in a context where their nervous systems could receive the care. The research is clear on the physiological effects of safety and threat on healing. On the specific question of door-to-door versus clinic-based care, the evidence is still early but promising. We do not yet fully understand all the mechanisms, but the pattern is clear enough to act on. The reason this practice produces these effects is that it is giving the Stone Age body exactly what it was built to receive. Care delivered in safety, care that comes to you, care that says without words, you are not alone, you are worth the journey, and you do not have to leave home to be held. So here's the practical gift of today's episode. The practice I want to offer is simple. It is not new, it is ancient, but it is something we have largely stopped doing in the modern world and something we can bring back starting today. I call it the visiting ritual. Here's what you need. Nothing. No special equipment, no training. Just you, your people, and your thresholds. Here's when to do it. Once a week or once a month. The frequency matters less than the consistency. Pick a rhythm that you can sustain. Mark it on your calendar. Treat it as a commitment. Here is what you actually do. First, identify one person you want to visit. Not someone you need to see for a transaction. Someone you want to be present with. A friend who is going through something hard. A family member you have not seen in a while. An elder who does not get out much. A neighbor who might be lonely. The person can be anyone. What matters is that you are going to them with the explicit purpose of presence. Second, reach out. Call or text. Say, I would like to come to your home. I want to sit with you. No agenda, just presence. If they say yes, set a time. Third, go. Travel to their home. This is important. You are the one crossing the threshold. You are the one making the journey. The act of traveling, the effort, the time, the intention is part of the ritual. Fourth, when you arrive, knock. Wait to be invited in. The threshold matters. Do not cross it until you are invited. Fifth, sit. Do not fix, do not advise, do not try to solve anything. Just sit, be present. Let them set the tone. If they want to talk, talk. If they want silence, sit in silence. If they want to share a meal, share a meal. The ritual is not about doing something. It is about being there. 6, when it is time to leave, thank them. Not for anything specific. Just thank them for letting you come. Now, here's the other side of the ritual. You can also be the one who is visited. You can invite someone to come to you. Say, I am going through something. I would like you to come to my home. I want you to sit with me. And let them cross your thresholds. Let them be present. Let yourself receive. What to expect in the first week? It might feel awkward. You might feel like you should be doing something more, fixing something, filling the silence. That is normal. The modern mind is conditioned to do, not to be. Stay with it. What it does not require. You do not need to be a healer. You do not need to have answers. You do not need to be spiritually inclined. You just need to be present. I will be honest with you. It can feel strange. The question I want to leave you with today is this. What would change in your relationships if you stopped waiting for people to come to you and started going to them? What would change if you stopped expecting yourself to travel for care and started letting care come to your door? Follow The Wired Ape on Instagram, YouTube, X, and Threads at The Wired Ape. Have a ritual Friday and a ritual weekend. I am Sarah. This is The Wired Ape. If any of what we talked about today resonates in a way that goes beyond curiosity, if you are carrying something that feels too heavy, if you are isolated and need someone to come to your door, please reach out to someone you trust.